Hi, baby. How you doing? Huh? Yeah, you're pretty. You're a pretty bird, you know that? Yeah.
The parrot is a beautiful creature. This cockatoo from Indonesia evolved to fly freely, not sit on my shoulder. We've seen them as pets and in zoos, but their real homes are the tropical forests. Sadly, parrots are disappearing throughout the world, but in the Caribbean, they have become a symbol for conservation and national pride. Yeah, that's right. When you think of the Caribbean, you usually think of white sand beaches, blue waters, palm trees, and warm tropical breezes. For me, as a Brooklyn boy, it wasn't anything less. I have a pretty intimate relationship with the Caribbean. Half of my family is Bahamian, from Cat Island and Andros and Nassau, and partially in Bimini. Someone with a West Indian accent has got to be a distant cousin of mine somewhere along the line. I spent many wonderful summers in these islands, climbing coconut trees and learning to swim. But I've come down now to see another Caribbean. This one is rich with ancient rainforests, flowing with rivers and lakes, and alive with unique wildlife. Christopher Columbus saw this Caribbean when he passed through here in 1492. The teeming woods and plants awed him, as did the number and assortment of birds. There were so many, in fact, that he described flocks as obscuring the sun. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case. The 500 years since Columbus has seen much virgin forest and many bird species disappear. With abandon, trees were cut for timber and fuel, fragile habitat was destroyed, and parrots were hunted down for food and the pet trade.
Your plants, pine plants.
Thank you very much.
But there's been a turnaround, and the destruction may be coming to an end.
How many have you?
How this came about involves a tale with many heroes, including government officials, concerned citizens, and a guy known as the Parrot Man.
So it's a pretty parrot, huh?
Yes, thank
Almost
you.
as pretty as you.
Thank you, thank you.
He's also known as Paul Butler, but it's in his role as the Parrot Man that the people of the Lesser Antilles have made use of him.
All right, man. Take care, darling.
Okay, take care.
All the
Bye-bye.
best, huh?
In 1975, Paul arrived here as a British graduate student. But a handful of forestry officials were facing a desperate situation, and they challenged Paul Butler to stay and help them.
Do.
The result?
Do.
A partnership that not only changed the outlook of the islands and their residents, but Paul Butler as well.
When I came to the Caribbean, I really thought, since I'd been trained in conservation, that I knew all the answers and that I knew what people should be doing and what they were doing wrong. And I tried to convey this to the people I was working with. Very soon, I learned that they knew far more than me, which, of course, if you look back in retrospect, is the right thing. They do know. They're the ones who live here. And then you've got to adjust your perceptions and your answers to questions to reflect their needs. And this is what I think I've learned. And perhaps the greatest blunder that anyone could make is the blunder that I made, that we know better from away than local people do. And I think learning from that experience, I've tried to help them to help themselves, using what they know, rather than what I think they should know.
Today, with the help of Paul Butler, Caribbean director of the Philadelphia-based Rare Center for Tropical Bird Conservation, and other organizations, these islands are helping themselves.
Think he's saying go away?
They have become well-versed in ecology, though the conversion's been tricky.
This is very special, isn't it?
Conservation is a complex concept to pass along. But by using attractive and endangered birds as an introduction to conservation, young and old have come to understand a great deal very quickly.
You proud of it? You like this as your national bird? These are in captivity because some people have had them a very long time. Now it's illegal. They can't take any more from the forest. He's protected. You think we should protect them and look after the national bird of St. Vincent?
Yes.
Yes. 'Cause he's Vincentian, just like you, isn't he?
Each island had a bird that was found nowhere else, and whose habitat was threatened and in need of protection.
Hello. Each of the islands have national birds, and using these national birds you can build a sense of pride. It's much easier to get this sense of pride and then to use the bird to promote other aspects of environmental conservation. So the bird is the first step in a long journey to try and create an awareness about the environment. Well, now you're all forest officers. It's your job to protect all the birds. If you see any little boys with their slingshot, you must tell them shoot mangoes. You know how the mango hangs on the tree?
And by reaching out to all segments of the population, young and old would become aware of their endangered bird and their endangered environment.
And if you see anybody cutting the forest, you must say that's not good, and you must tell the head of forestry.
This was a conservation program I wanted to see, so I hitched up with Paul Butler for a tour of these islands.
I've been told that each bird from each island is slightly different.
Yeah, each of the parrots in the Eastern Caribbean are slightly different colour. I won't say which is the prettiest because then I won't be allowed back into the other islands. But, although I better admit that St. Vincent is the prettiest, but St. Lucia's has the more character, you know?
More character, huh? I find, as I drive around the island, a rather large media blitz, not unlike Madison Avenue in New York City.
What we're doing is using a sexy-looking bird, the parrots or the orioles, depending on which island, to sell conservation. Because these birds are only found on these islands, they're endemic, it means that they can build up a sense of pride. It's only found here. It's only St. Lucia's parrot. It's only St. Vincent's parrot. And that builds the sense of pride which you can then use to get the message across. And just like a corporation who uses billboards and bumper stickers, these islands have adopted similar approaches. We use music videos, church services, billboards, bumper stickers, posters, into every single school, speak to every single child. So it's a blitz. It's exactly what you said, a blitz. Hit everybody one time over a short period of time.
Attention, please for your attention. We're calling one and all. Help us fight this growing problem. Pollution, yeah, pollution.
This simple idea turned into a whirlwind conservation campaign, Calypso style. And as it moved from island to island, musicians, recording studios, TV stations, artists, teachers, and merchants have devoted their time and talent to get the message out.
And save ourselves much trouble, and let tomorrow be a brighter dawn.
But you got to learn to live down here before you can live out there. Our quality of life is dependent on the quality of our environment. Praise be to God.
Necessary wish through conservation. Through conservation.
That is right, my friends. You never heard of me? I am also called Jaco.
Together with Jaco as our leader, working to the cleaner, brighter, better land. United in this struggle and save ourselves much trouble.
This Caribbean-style environmental program is happening in the most fragile of ecosystems. Isolated, Islands are exclusive homes to many animals and plants found nowhere else in the world. Species numbers have always been small. The slightest disruption of habitat has often led to quick extinction. And much disruption has come to the islands in the last 500 years. War, colonialism, slavery, emancipation, and independence have swept these islands like the trade winds. But today, you see many people here looking with care upon their environment. And at the forefront of this movement are St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, and Montserrat. The island of Montserrat has seen it all. Throughout the centuries, it was the shifting prize between British and French navies looking to control Caribbean trade. In more recent times, it has become the locale of recording studios and has hosted many popular musicians looking to record in peace and quiet.
Look in the sky, and a new day's dawning, sun in my eyes, a nation rising, got to see the future lies.
But in 1989, that quiet was shattered on Montserrat. Hurricane Hugo slammed into this island with 180-mile-an-hour winds. In 10 hours, the land known as the Emerald Isle was reduced to a heap of ruin, leaving 10 people dead and thousands homeless. Forests were toppled, vegetation ripped from its roots, and wildlife habitat destroyed. Although the quiet has returned and Montserrat has rebuilt, some wreckage and damaged buildings still dot the island. But the environment will take a lot longer to recover. And if any good came of Hugo, it was a lesson of how delicate the island's environment was. A situation Paul Butler, the National Trust, and the Forestry Department of Montserrat were ready to exploit. First, their environmental education program needed a focus, a symbol, an endangered bird that was found nowhere else. And they found it in the Montserrat Oriole. The bird's population of 1,200 was already dwindling due to the habitat loss on the island. Then many more were lost to the hurricane. Few Montserratans had ever seen this shy creature which dwells in the undergrowth of the bamboo forest. In fact, these are the first moving pictures ever made. If something wasn't done to protect the remaining forest, this might have been the only way to see the Oriole. But the most important element in the program is local people. It goes nowhere without them. Paul had to find someone trusted by the community to take the lead, someone who would be the Paul Butler of Montserrat.
What we wanted was a counterpart that could get the message across. It didn't have to be necessarily a scientist, but one who was well known on the island, who was very energetic, outgoing, and Rose foots that bill perfectly.
Frequencies, 885 kilohertz AM.
That's Rose Willock, known as the Voice of the Caribbean. She was a familiar presence on the radio throughout the Antilles, giving news and information vital to the region. But today, she has a new message. Rose Willock has turned her talents to the environment and brought the Oriole to center stage.
That the main aspect of this particular program has to do with profiling our national bird, the Montserrat Oriole. And I was sort of quizzing the students, on all aspects pertaining to the Montserrat Oriole and its habitat and the forest and this whole thing of conservation and everything. And some very interesting information came out of that. I mean, I was amazed at the amount of information the student had, what they actually knew.
Her work has gone beyond the station to schools and cultural events.
Don't say it yet, just put your hand up. All ready? Now!
I have a feeling that everybody knows what I'm going to be talking about. So let me hear you shout it out.
Oriole!
Okay, and what goes before Oriole? Let me hear you shout it out. All right, and what is the Montserrat Oriole? Let me hear you say it again. All right. I'm convinced that any program of this nature, you have to start in the schools, you have to start with the children, you have to start with the young people. They have the imagination, and if you can fire that imagination, then they in turn can interest their parents and their relatives and the older people, which somehow we seem to have done at Montserrat.
Catching up with Rose can be hard, but once you do, you realize why the environmental message on Montserrat has spread so quickly.
So Montserrat, it's a tiny country, 39.5 square miles, something like that, greatly affected by Hurricane Hugo. It's got modest resources. It had to be difficult for you to start a program and sensitize children, people, about those animals.
Initially, what I did in terms of getting national input, national participation, because I believe in like maximum sensitization, maximum participation. So you have to make it so that everyone feels that they're contributing in some small way. So I brought together all the creative artists on the island, those involved with music, dance, drama, art and craft. And we spoke to them in terms of what we were doing, what we were trying to do. And here's how you can be involved. And you would have your own ideas as to how to make it work to your benefit, that sort of thing. So with that sense of involvement, it wasn't difficult after that.
What is personal? Why is it so personal?
Because it was so different. The project itself was so different to anything I'd ever done. It was coming at a time where I needed something to help me with the healing process, because I was a part of the experience of the hurricane. And I hurt just like everybody else. I lost just like everybody else. We were all putting things back together. And I thought, oh my God, in the middle of trying to rebuild your homes, getting roofs back on, building from scratch, trying to get furniture into your home, we're talking about a bird. You know, I liked it. Mm-hmm. You know, I said, well, hey, why not? You know, so for me, it really was a personal challenge.
Much of the Oriole's forest home is under protection today, but Rose Willock and the people of Montserrat say that's not enough. Only continual education and vigilance will ensure the survival of the bird and the natural heritage of their Emerald Isle.
That looks great. I'm very nationalistic, and I'd like everybody to feel the sense of nationalism that I feel. I don't care what part of the world you come from or the size of your country. You should feel something special about your country because you are a part of it. We're going to be singing the Oriole song, and everybody knows it, isn't that so? Are you ready? Hey, listen to the, how are we going to start it? When God created man, he put the animals into the plant. He said, look out there, good boy, and they will look after you. Now there's a bird in Montserrat. The mountains are his habitat, but Hugo made a mess of that. And now there's just a few. Put the balloons up. Oh, the Oriole. Oh, the Oriole. Red and black and gold. The Montserrat Oriole. All right, goody.
To get the full thrill of what the Lesser Antilles looked like when Columbus arrived, travel 100 miles southeast of Montserrat to the island of Dominica. Canopied forests and thick vegetation still cover almost 3/4 of this island, allowing a watershed that supports over 350 rivers and many lakes and streams. So much fresh water flows here, in fact, that it's one of the island's exports. Known as the nature island of the Caribbean, it draws a different sort of tourist, one with a preference for nature over sun and sand. But for now, the economy depends on agriculture, which requires clearing the land of trees. Some islanders, though, believe the future of Dominica is nature, a resource with great economic potential that needs vigorous protection.
And at the same time, we have an education program.
Keeping an eye on this resource is Felix Gregoire, head of the island's Forestry and Wildlife Division.
Cut down trees in a very
In 1990, Felix invited Paul Butler and Rare Center to Dominica to help change minds about the forests and their use. They came together for Project Cicero, named for the island's own national bird, the Cicero parrot. Its population has been devastated by habitat destruction, hunting, hurricanes, and the international pet trade. Parrot poaching is now illegal in Dominica, with convictions bringing stiff fines and jail sentences. It's a harsh world for the sensitive and colorful creature that proudly emblazons the Dominican flag. But until recently, few Dominicans knew their parrot was so endangered. Today, through the project, everyone knows the predicament of the Cicero. Concern now runs so high that 80% of the island's primary school children donated money to help the government purchase one of the prime habitats of the parrot, an area known as Syndicate.
We have an ongoing education program. And through that program, we basically touched most Dominicans as far as getting them to be aware about parrots and wildlife generally and the environment on a whole. So because of that, I think a lot of people are aware of the issues related to parrot protection, wildlife management, and the environment generally.
Syndicate joins a long list of protected areas that cover nearly 1/4 of the island's landmass, the highest proportion set aside by any country in the Caribbean, and one of the highest in the world. It's a testament to how seriously Dominica takes conservation, and further evidence of that can be found in the cadre of dedicated government employees charged with the care of these lands.
The Forestry and Wildlife Division here is one of the best trained and highly motivated in the Eastern Caribbean. Their role is to manage the forest, to ensure that those areas set aside as national parks and forest reserves are indeed protected. And this means that they go on patrols, they monitor the boundaries to make sure there is no encroachment.
Forestry work is not anything glamorous. It's something that is hard, it's something that people don't see. You have to be at it all the time. If you don't love forestry, you don't really work as a forest officer.
Soon, these trails will be improved as part of a long-range plan to promote Dominica's pristine state as a tourist attraction. Forestry officials hope ecotourism will someday lessen the economic dependence on bananas. Bananas are bad replacements for traditional forest trees. Their shallow roots are unsuitable for holding soil and rainwater. When bananas are grown on hillsides, soil erosion follows. But for now, the fruit is the lifeblood of the islanders.
Bananas are an important crop in all of these islands. They are the backbone of the economy of most of the East Caribbean islands. Bananas ripen at all parts of the year and so provide a steady source of income, and this is why they're very popular with farmers in this region. And this means that large tracts of forest have been cleared for bananas. In the case of Dominica, the Forest and Wildlife Division have very zealously protected their forest reserve, and the bananas go right up to the edge of it.
Dominica has been putting tracts of land under protection for years, but the Forestry Division often stood alone in environmental consciousness. Felix credits people like Paul Butler with helping bring wider support.
When I first met Paul Butler in St. Lucia, I saw him like a wild kid, you know, running around and actually stirring up trouble. But Paul is a very simple person, and that is what makes Paul very effective.
Yeah, the parrots.
And when you listen to him, then you appreciate what he's actually selling. He sees things from our eyes, from the way we see it. He tries to understand how we feel, what we want to do, and how we want to do it. And I believe that's the only way to do it, because if you want to impose your ideas on people, people don't support you. They see it as your thing and not theirs. And because of that, he has been able to do much more than people who've been working here for years.
Dominica's forestry division decided a newspaper would be helpful. Today, they publish an environmental weekly that's distributed to adults and the schools, where it supplements lessons on ecology.
Pest control. Pests are species of plants or animals which are dangerous to human welfare, either medically or economically. Different pests are controlled using different methods.
If students don't hear about the environment in class, island entrepreneurs invite them to think about it while soaping up in the shower. Seems nothing's sacred when it comes to saving the Cicero. And like the other islands that add color and life to the evolving conservation blueprint, Dominica has added pageantry. The Kyrie School of Music has long expressed the island's abiding love of song and dance. It's a passion that's not overlooked the Cicero. Director Pearl Christian surprised Paul Butler with the school's contribution to the Parrot Project, a musical.
Paul Butler, he just knew that I was doing a musical, and he had no idea what it was going to be like. I think at one time I asked him to come and look at a rehearsal, but he was really busy, going all over the place, going to visiting schools and so. So I said, well, you must come to the showing, which was on the prize giving of the Kyrie School of Music that year. And he came. And I guess at the end of it, I mean, I was so involved getting kids ready, putting on makeup. I didn't see him during the time. At the end of it, he said, my God, that was so lovely. That was the best thing I've seen in the Caribbean. And he was like almost in tears. You know, he was very, very touched.
I have a message from up above. It's a simple one of love to share with all who will listen well and who will act upon what I tell. If you give to Mother Nature, she will give back tenfold to you. Go to Granny and question her, and she will tell you it's very true. Whatever you do to others will be done unto you. Take no change your ways and start anew. You must protect the wildlife, the forests and rivers too. But above all, please save me, our little Cicero. I'm a blessed creation who is quite similar to you. Only one younger year I bear. You're no different, or so I hear. You can speak most any language, so can I in this day and age. But to say we're the same isn't true, cause I'm a kinder creature than you. Whatever you do to others will be done unto you. Take no change your ways and start anew. You must protect the wildlife, the forest and rivers too. That's above all, please save me, your little Cicero. If you look up and spit at heaven, spit returns to defile your person. If you fling dust against the wind, it comes back to get him that sinned. If you'd only stop a while, hold your axe so careless, so vile, you will surely appreciate that you're masters of your own fate. Whatever you do to others will be done unto you. Take no change your ways and start anew. You must protect the wildlife, the forests and rivers too. But above all, please save me, your little Cicero. I
made me cry, just to see the effort they had put in and the enthusiasm of the children singing this song to protect their environment. And that gave me hope for the future.